Dear Heavenly Father, we come to you as humble as we can. Come to you gracefully. We ask for forgiveness for all of our sins. We stand here and thank you for all the many blessings you bestowed upon us. We ask that you continue to watch over us as we continue to do your will as we gather here tonight to do the people's will. Lord, bless this gathering for the good of the people. Amen.
Amen.
I pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
The first order of business is...
Mr. Chairman, I'd like to make a motion.
Yes, sir.
Please. I'd like to make a motion to move the public hearing to after new business.
Have a second?
Second.
Any discussion?
Why?
Because you can't vote for what's in public hearing until after you pass what's in new business.
No, it's the other way around.
No.
Policy.
It's the other way around. It's just for.
We have to pass the policy before we can pass the referendum.
No, we
No,
have.
after, we want to do that afterwards.
Michael, we need your help.
No, the public hearing
Reference
is,
the ordinance
yeah.
that's been adopted by the
All right,
council.
well, that's different from last time.
All righty. Question, you good?
Yeah.
Question on the motion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Sorry, I left out. Opposed, no? Okay. Order of business is oath of office for newly appointed board and commission members. When I call your name, if you'd come forward so Mr. Kendry can swear you in. James Bowen, Tommy Smoltz, Tom Smith, James Gilkson, Rod Dumerat, Russ Parton, David Fell, Joy Price, David Fudge, Jeff Blair, Billy Hagner.
Hey, y'all can come on up here. We can hear you.
Thank you on behalf of council. Appreciate your service to York County. And I'm going to administer the oath, and after the oath is, after you're sworn in, if you kindly approach the council, then may I have the Lord's family. That you each raise your right hand and repeat after me. I do solemnly swear.
I do solemnly swear
That I am duly qualified.
that I am duly qualified,
According to the Constitution of this state.
according to the Constitution of this state,
To exercise the duties of the office.
to exercise the duties of the office
To which I have been appointed.
to which I have been appointed,
And I will, to the best of my ability.
and I will, to the best of my ability,
Discharge the duties thereof.
discharge the duties thereof,
And preserve, protect, and defend.
preserve, protect, and defend
The Constitution of this state.
the Constitution of this state
And of the United States.
and of the United States.
So help me God.
So help me God.
Thank you. Congratulations.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much. That's your souvenir cup.
We've done this at Columbia for you.
Yeah, I had that.
Sworn you in down there.
I don't know you can use another cup.
Good luck.
We can find something better.
We need to bring him mountain bike riding with us.
Politics.
Look forward to it. Look forward to it.
Who did that?
Did what?
Politics.
Nobody. Bump. Just bump.
Leave it to your left, you know.
We're gonna have to send you a letter.
Sternly worded.
Oh, God.
Is Mary Grace Shannon here? Mary, if you'd come forward, let me, if your mom can come with you. But we want to recognize Mary for her achievement in earning the 2017 Congressional Award Gold Medal. If you'll give me a second. Just read a little bit about her background. Gracie was one of 373 national recipients who earned the Congressional Award Gold Medal and was awarded the medal in Washington, D.C. on June 21st. The gold medal is the highest level of recognition in the Congressional Award Program. Participants set goals and complete a minimum of 200 hours of personal development, 200 hours of physical fitness, a 5-day planned exploration trip, and 400 hours of public service. With a passion for the medical field and a desire to help those when they cannot help themselves, Gracie completed training and became a state-certified first responder and has served York County through volunteering 24 to 36 hours a week on 12-hour shifts at River Hills Lake Wiley EMS. As well as serving as the third person on the ambulance, she provided EMS support at community functions, high school athletic events, and provided educational EMS workshops to Boy Scout troops and vacation Bible schools. In the past 2 years, Gracie has volunteered over 2,000 hours throughout the community. Having developed a love for the people of York County, Gracie most recently completed night classes to become a nationally registered EMT and continues to volunteer at River Hills Lake Wiley EMS, serving the community she loves. Gracie will attend Davison College in the fall as a William Holt Terry Scholar and plans to continue her EMS volunteer service in the Davison community. Would everybody give an applause? Hang on just a second. We're testing my diet. We want to give you this award and this very nice certificate. And congratulations. If you want to say anything, feel free to. Congratulations.
Thank you so much. No, thank you, but thank you so much for this.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Congratulations.
Next appearance is Chet Miller to discuss the Sunday alcohol sales ordinance. Welcome, Chet.
Thank you. What this proposed ordinance is with regard to,
Well, be sure to give your address
oh, I'm sorry, yes,
for Karen.
2056 Balmoral Drive, Rock Hill. Sorry, Karen. What, give you a little bit of brief history about the Sunday alcohol sales here in York County. About 10 years ago, we did the restaurant as a separate petition that we did here, and that was restaurant sales. Later, 5 years ago, we did another petition in which it permitted retail sales through like Walmart, Publix, convenience stores, and so on. What happened here about a year and a half or so ago, Dr. Blackwell received a letter from the Department of Revenue with regard to an opinion that was started by the city of Clemson with regard to Title 61, one of the subsections within it. As a result, the ruling was a little bit different than what they had requested. The ruling came back and said that the statute as written with regard to retail sales was invalid. It could not be used only in a rare case where someone had passed the restaurant sales prior to 1993. Of course, we didn't do ours until well after 1993. Therefore, the Department of Revenue, the discussions I've had with them, they said that we would have to cease and desist. We got them to agree to give us a 2-year grace period, so to speak of. So it would end June 30th of next year unless we did something different. There are two alternatives to solve this. One was to have a legislative change. I don't see that because there's been a lot of question with regard to Title 61 and other areas. I just don't see us getting into that. The other way is to go back and I discussed this with the Department of Revenue. They agreed to it. Is we go ahead and do a revote next year. We do it in a general election with regard to the one statute that is valid, which is the statute that calls out for restaurants and retail at the same time. So they would extend our deadline date now to November 6th of next year. So it would not apply to us as far as the June 30th date is concerned. That's why the ordinance, I recommend that we go forward with it and go ahead and put it back on the ballot. It wouldn't cost anything more because it isn't a general election. Any questions?
Questions for Chet? Thank you, sir.
Okay. Thank you.
Our next order of business is public forum. Remember, you have up to 2 minutes. When I call you forward, just give your name and address, and then I'll give you up to 2 minutes, and then the next person comes forward. First person is C.W., is it Singh?
Sin.
Sin?
Sin.
Okay.
Yeah, I can probably tell you what he's gonna say.
I'm C.W. Sin, 520 West Mount Gallant Road, York, South Carolina. Yes, you can tell part of what I'm going to say. But the first thing I'm going to ask you before I do that, and I only got 2 minutes, John Spratt got about 10. How about take the name agricultural off this building? There is no agriculture in this building, hasn't been any agriculture in probably 20 years in this building. So any tourist who drives by here and sees agricultural building says, my God, York County, they think highly of agriculture. And we all know that's a lie. The other thing is agro-tourism facility. Still haven't seen it. You could fill it up with horses because they're all going to be in Tryon, and they can't hold them all. So I guarantee you there'll be horses boarded for the next 100, 200 miles. And yes, I know we have an agro-tourism facility committee, and I'm on the committee. And when Tommy Pope turned it over to a county council member, I told him, I said, well, Mr. Pope, you just kill that committee. Have a good night. Thank you for your time and consideration.
Thank you, sir. Appreciate it. Well, you just set that committee back another, I'll have to start it again. Okay, next person is Melissa Ames.
Good evening, council members.
Welcome.
My name is Melissa Ames. I live at 3815 Concord Road, and I would just like to express my concern about the proposed development of the peninsula down at the end of past the power plant. You'll hear from one of our members of our neighborhood group tonight, but I'm just speaking by myself, not as a representative of the neighbors, just to express my concerns about increasing the development in the peninsula. There are about 130 homes down there now, but if the zoning of that area is RD2 from back in 1986, I would ask you to reconsider the zoning of that area so that we wouldn't have 2 homes per acre. There's only one way on or off the peninsula, is that small 2-lane bridge going right by the power plant. We're concerned about evacuation, safety during a hurricane, possible terrorist activity as we experienced in 2001, or even in an accident with increased traffic down there. We've had many times where trees have just blown over and the road is blocked. So a big concern is a nuclear event. And then NRC recommends that if there is a nuclear event, that no one approach the power plant. If our only egress and ingress onto the peninsula is the 2-lane bridge past the power plant, we're very concerned. Not only, we live there already, we understand that, but if you allow exponential growth on that peninsula, it's an accident waiting to happen. So I wish you would consider this. Perhaps we could take a look at RD2, go to RD1. I'm just asking you to consider it, and I appreciate all you do for us. Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am. Appreciate it. Okay, next item's consent agenda. Do we have a motion?
Move to approve.
Second.
Discussion. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed, no. Let's see here. Next item. Yours is in front of you. Yeah, in front of old business. Okay, public hearing. Council to hold a public hearing and consider.
We move public.
Oh,
Behind new.
well, that's what I was asking. I'm
No,
sorry.
I said-
We miscommunicated.
We're on the same
Okay.
page. Looking at the agenda from the other.
Bear with me, people. We get to it. Here we go.
I got mine.
Okay, rezoning action, consider third reading case number 1713, tax map number 26300000017, to rezone from AGC to RUD, 854 Wilmont Road in the Clover community.
Move to approve.
Second. Discussion. Question on the motion. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. Next item, consider third reading case number 1716, tax map number 3400000005P, 3400000006, rezone from AGC to RUD1 at 228 Cameron Road in the York community.
Move to approve. Second.
Discussion. Question on the motion. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. Next item. Consider third reading case number 1718, tax map number 75700000004, request to rezone property from UD to RUD at 114 Reservation Road in the Catawba community.
Move to approve.
Second.
Discussion. Question on the motion. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. And after new business, okay. Next item, Avis Cole, Interim Director of the York County Rock Hill Convention and Visitors Bureau, to provide an update to council on the Convention and Visitors Bureau. Come forward, young man.
Good evening.
Welcome.
I'm Officer Cole, Interim Director for the Rock Hill York County Convention and Visitors Bureau. Just want to thank you all, Council, for allowing us to present our annual update on our previous fiscal year and what you can expect for 2017. Oh, this right here. There we go. Okay.
Right here. Right before the meeting. Okay.
Okay, well, about us, we are the marketing agency for the entire county of York, and our mission statement is to promote a thriving tourism economy for all of York County.
Things are going well, aren't they, all?
They're going well. They're going really well, actually.
Good, everything's fine.
But thank you. In regards to our vision, you'll see that every tourism experience, we want it to be so exciting that you have to tell somebody when they're all in town. So that's our mission and vision statement. Of course, our office is located in the Baxter Hood Center on the campus of York Technical College. This is the lovely staff, the Mighty Six. Rebecca Artis, Sandra Burris. Rebecca Artis is our finance manager. Sandra Burris, our communications manager director. Allison Cleveland, she runs our front office, our visitor center. Andy Clinton, he runs our group sales and helps out with the sports markets as well, and meetings market. Trina Ricks is our part-time employee. She deals with help staff in regards to Visitor Services Center, and of course, myself. And video. So we have some sound. This is a video that we have as we recruit new businesses, new events to the area, and this is kind of what we show as we go out to promote York County. This video is typical of a tourism community or entity around the country. Again, you see these videos to promote the area. We've gotten rave reviews on it. This video is available on our website. We have a YouTube channel, and it's also available to the county's use as well to put on your website as well, just from an impact, tourism, residents, and things of that nature. This next video will be our annual report, which we unveiled at our tourism summit back in March. You'll be receiving a handout of the actual tourism report from a booklet standpoint, but we also did a first ever video file as well.
Every day presents an opportunity to create your story in York County, South Carolina. What makes our community stand out is none other than its southern hospitality. You're more likely to meet people who came for a weekend and decided to stay a lifetime. Adventure is driven by your curiosity to explore and moments that will inspire you to seek new and exciting things to do in York County, South Carolina. It's our mission to create a thriving travel and tourism economy in York County. We want to make every tourism experience so exciting that it must be shared. Our shared growth is reflected in our overall direct economic impact highlights in York County for 2015 through 2016. Communications. Since launching our new brand message and identity in 2015, our communication efforts continue to evolve and advance to reflect today's new trends and current technology, which help to boost communications and marketing outcomes. Sports tourism. The CVB sports staff recruited and assisted with over 32 sporting events held in the Rock Hill and York County area during the 2015 through 2016 fiscal year. These 32 events brought in an astounding $7.4 million economic impact to our local community. This generated a record high of over 15,000 hotel room nights for the year. Meetings and conferences. Our continued partnerships with local educational institutions, corporations, churches, and associations will increase our opportunity to host more conferences and meetings in York County. During the 2015 through 2016 fiscal year, the CVB recorded highs in economic impact, hotel room nights, and total attendance. Group tours. Our success in the group tour market this fiscal year was largely due to the amazing partnerships that the CVB has with local attractions. The CVB assisted 300 groups, 10,000 attendees, and brought in nearly $500,000 in economic impact. Leisure travel. With the intense relocation growth of York County, the CVB began working on new initiatives, programs, and partnerships to advance their role in local economic development. Leisure travel produced over 70,000 room nights and brought in an estimated $5.5 million economic impact. We're different. We have something special, and we have something to share with those who get off the road most traveled and find a place full of history, heritage, outdoor recreation, nature, and so much more. Everyone has a story. Let us help create yours in York County.
We've heard from council several years ago that we did need to be more active in our digital efforts and our technological advances. The staff has done a remarkable job in leading the CVB to a digital timeline, and we are seeing more traffic. That's what our consumer wants. That's what the research shows. And this was our first attempt to put something like an annual report from a video standpoint. Again, this was unveiled at the Tourism Summit back in March. I know several of you, some of you did attend that, including Bill himself. So,
was that him on the mountain bike? Oh, okay.
Yeah. But we do have a surprise for him later on in the presentation. You'll see here in a minute. As far as our services, we offer various amounts of things. Of course, leisure market is huge for any tourism, city, county, or state. Group tours, of course, religious, military, sports, conventions, corporate meetings, housing bureau, and relocation package. We'll get into that a little bit later in the presentation here as I finish up. Fiscal year highlights. Now, the video report shows everything on here. As far as our highlights, we're very successful in the 16th fiscal year. And record highs in several things, $14.4 million in economic impact, 64 events booked, over 100,000 visitor sites to our website, almost 80,000 in total event attendance, which was a record year for us, 60 published stories, meaning from a communication standpoint, Charlotte news, national news, local news. We produce and get published 5 stories every month. And that's a good thing for the Bureau because we're now telling our story instead of someone telling the story for us. And of course, we had a record high in over 90,000 room nights. I'm sure you all see all the hotels coming to the area, and that's a good thing, and not just to the city of Rock Hill, but they're spreading into the communities, other communities like such as Antigua and Fort Mill as well. Activities, of course, what we promote a lot of different things for the county. I mean, from attractions to recreational facilities, sites, festivals and entertainment. That's a big draw for us. Even our local community are involved heavily into the festivals and events and entertainments. Social media again has been strong for us. Sandra Burris, she's our communications director, and we have a brand new brand. We have a new branding, and we go by with the branding agency. They help us successfully reach out to the hundreds of thousands of people that we just can't reach out to from a physical standpoint, so that our digital imprint is fairly large. Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, even such things as a new app that we have launched helps our tourism, our tourists and our visitor when they come to town. We have over 27,000 fans on our Facebook page, and to be honest with you, that's a big number because we are outpacing even cities that are much larger and towns and counties that are much larger than ours. Marketing. There are several ways we market from a tangible standpoint. Of course, you all have seen the visitor's guide. We produce about 25 to 35,000 of those each year. We have tons of partnership involved in that. Restaurants, attractions. This is pretty much our go-to for any resident, tourist, or visitor coming into town as far as getting everything they need to know as far as a one-stop shop item. This is the new one. Most of you all have seen and heard the app. I assume all 6 of you, 11, have downloaded the app already. Visit York County. It is free. When people come to town, the cool thing about it is they download this. It's a free app, and it's GPS enabled. So if they want to find something to do, restaurant, attraction, they click on it, they search for it, and it tells them where they are, GPS enabled from their current location. This is done really well in the office, and the people in town seem to like it, so it's something that we're going to keep. Of course, this is our website. Our website is doing really well, again, with the new brand, visityourcounty.com. 2017, what you can expect as far as some of our successes and what you can expect going forward for the office. Our events, 2017 has been really a good year already, a banner year, Mad Monster convention. That was a fun one. Ric Flair, Billy D. Williams, a host of other horror film stars, movie stars, were all in town at our facility in Baxter Hood Center, over almost 4,000 to 5,000 in total attendance. That was a good event for us, something new. That's something we got out of Charlotte because of North Carolina's HB2 bill at the time. So there was something that we actually benefited from being in South Carolina, so that was a good thing for us. Tourism Summit was a success in 2017 in March. Ag and Art Tour, wow. We started that. It's the largest free farm and ag and art tour in the entire country, and it started here in York County. We have 9 counties in the entire state, 20 farms, 40 artisans that represent York County alone for the Ag and Art Tour. Football University, it's probably our largest sporting events in the county that has happened preceding the BMX World Championships. We just hosted it again this year. Over 6,000 people were in attendance, 45 states, including Canada. It was a large event, really excited to have them in town, and we're working on another 2 to 3 year extension commitment. And of course, last but not least, NCAA. We achieved our first NCAA 2018 championship event in cross country for the first time in almost 20 years probably, and we're really excited about that to partner with Winthrop and other partners to make that event a really special one to come. Hotels, open 4 to 5, 4 hotels have opened up in 2017 with another projected of 3 to 5 more scheduled to open up. The cool thing about this inventory is we have a 12% increase in supply. From May of last year to May of this year, we have a 13% increase in demand. So our demand is still over our supply, and that's a good number. That's when you see more investors coming into our community wanting to invest dollars. Dollars means more jobs, means a larger tax base. It's a good thing. That's what we want in our community. And as far as programs, Housing Bureau and move to yourcountysc.com. And we'll talk about that here shortly. The Housing Bureau, this is the first time that the CVB has had a revenue-generated department or program. We now are pretty much like Orbitz. We control all the inventory for the hotels and producing housing, booking rooms for the customer, and making sure those dollars stay within our community and not leaking out to Charlotte or anywhere else. So that's a good thing. We're about 6 events into it, and it's been received really well, and we're really excited about this revenue stream that we've added to the Bureau. I'm going to have Rebecca and Allison come up, and they're going to also pass out the unveiling of our brand new relocation guide. Really excited about this, and here it is. I mean, this is new. This is our big win. This is the relocation guide, where we felt that at the CVB, we get so many people that stop into our offices wanting information on York County. Yeah, I thought Bump would like those towels, by the way. You know, that was from our football university event that we had just past
Did Bump give you that
week.
suggestion?
No. But let's just say he was in the back of my mind. But yeah, so the relocation guide, the staff, gosh, has worked tirelessly on producing this booklet. And we're really excited about that. We modeled this relocation guide after Charleston, South Carolina. And of course, everybody knows what Charleston is. It's a great destination, great place to live as well. And we took a lot of their ideas and we made it better with Move to York County SC. Again, we see a lot of people coming into our offices, not only wanting a guide, but an actual roadmap, which we'll have in the office next week. People still want that tangible roadmap. And guys, so now we have a one-stop source where they can get all the information on the towns, education, transportation. And on page number 7, there's a shiny face in there, Bill, and talks about what brought him here to the area. Of course, the job didn't hurt, you know, but yeah, we're really excited. This guide was in partnership with York County Economic Development. They helped us with the financial funding component of it. Of course, our realtors, the hospitals, dental offices, family and physician offices, everyone's gonna be really excited about that. So we really hope you like that piece, and it was something that we're really proud of. Again, the staff has done a good deal, has done a lot of work on that. So you guys are pretty much the first to see that outside of the staff. So that wraps up the presentation. I just want to thank you on behalf of the entire Convention and Visitors Bureau staff, our Board of Commissioners. We thank you for your time, your efforts, and most importantly, your support. So we appreciate it. If you have any questions, other than that, thank you.
Any questions, Mr. Roddy?
Yeah. I appreciate the Football City USA plug, I really do. I had nothing to do with that guy.
Of course you did.
One quick question. You know, several years back, we were faced with the decision on relocating the CVB from Baxter Hood, York Tech,
Right.
and go to Riverwalk. What are your thoughts now, 3-4 years later, on a move other than the Baxter Hood Center?
Okay, great question. We know from an industry standpoint that we have to be located in an area where the visitor can easily access our office for information purposes. I mean, that's a fact. So the Baxter Hood Center, where our offices currently are located, it's not ideal, no. So we have continued efforts in investigating other locations, whether it's a Riverwalk, somewhere up in the Fort Mill area, somewhere up in maybe potentially the Carowinds area. There's still investigations going on. We have a committee within the CVB that we are still targeting those areas because that is definitely a priority. So we do need to move the location, not only for the visitor sake and to getting to our location, but to also grow the CVB. You know, in this day and age, it's about growth, and it is a little bit challenging to grow in a facility from a physical standpoint where there is no more room, and then two, not really ideal for our offices and or a visitor center. But that's something that the CVB Board of Commissioners is always exploring, and hopefully we can kind of hop back on that train sooner than later as far as getting to a decision on relocating our offices and or a visitor center, not for the sake of the staff, but for the sake of the visitor and the tourists coming into town.
And one more quick point I want to make. You guys have really taken the initiative when, a couple years ago, we said start using apps and kind of keep some costs down and things, but this is really great to see how many, whether it's Facebook, Twitter, people downloading the apps. You know, this is the digital age is where you have to be. And I think several years back, we had no functions really going on, and so you guys have really taken this, you know, to a new level, and it's happened fairly quickly.
Yeah, yeah. Our digital footprint has virtually quadrupled over the past couple years, and it's a good thing. And we want to continue that forward. We're not going to stop here. I mean, it's plenty of things that we want to initiate, but you know, we're going to take it one step at a time. Again, the staff, with a staff like ours, it makes jobs a little bit easier. So.
And I just wanted to
Mr. Winkler.
give you a heads up that we have some challenges with some marketing of some of our things over in District 3 in the western side of the county. But I will see you Thursday night when you're presenting at the Greater York Chamber, and I'll discuss them with you.
Oh, looking forward to it. Looking forward to it. And you can also expect, from a CVB standpoint, an annual presentation such as this, same time of year in the summer, because what it does is it closes the fiscal year for us, and it also, we kind of get into going forward into the next fiscal year. So again, appreciate your time.
Any other? Yes, sir. Mr. Johnson.
I want to appreciate you coming today. One of the things I was looking through this, it says 92,463 hotel room nights booked in York County. Can you quantify how many of those were in a unincorporated area versus city?
Well, with the unincorporated area, the city of Rock Hill is the large benefactor of the hotels, obviously. We are just now building more properties, of course, on exit 85 and exit 90. So just a guesstimate, because that number includes leisure travel. So we get a ton of properties, room nights from the Carowinds properties, obviously. So I would say, if I'm guessing, about a 25 to 30% number from an unincorporated standpoint, and that's kind of a best guess. We do have some things, studies, where we have municipality sheets for Fort Mill, TKK, Clover, and York in regards to direct impact dollars to their communities alone with the events that we're promoting. But if I'm guessing, if I'm thinking about as far as hotel room nights in unincorporated area, I would say about a 25 to 30% number from that 92,000.
And while I would not expect it to be in one of these, I'd love to see those numbers next year. And I would estimate 80% of your budget comes from the county through H-tax and A-tax. So I would be curious to see more. I mean, the whole goal of H-tax and A-tax is we spend it to generate more, create tourism. And the city of Rock Hill, from my understanding, cut your budget this year. They actually reduced the amount of money they gave to you all. And I understand other municipalities have begun to donate towards you.
Right.
But I'd just like to be able to kind of make sure that while what's good for one part of York County is good for all of York County, I'd certainly like to make sure that we are getting a bang for the buck just in the unincorporated areas.
Definitely, and I think what's going to help that too, Councilman Johnson, is the fact that the more product that begins to be developed, not only from an attraction standpoint, but from a hotel standpoint, it's definitely going to help that cause. You know, in regards to this, the city of Rock Hill just has so much. It was so heavily dominated, and you know, that's the big one. So that's kind of where everything, you know, pretty much went towards. But that percentage, I would expect to see it increase, because you can see the growth. Again, we're talking about exit numbers off of 77. You see the growth at exit 85 and exit 90 both. And then, of course, with the continued growth of Carowinds and what they're trying to do in the next 3 to 5 years. But definitely we can look at some of those breakdowns and gradually look at some of those increases and see where we can do more at.
Any other comments? No?
Great publication.
Thank you.
Yeah, I appreciate everything you do. I mean, that's one of our top 2 industries in the state, so we have to take advantage of our opportunities. I would ask you if you could maybe dedicate some staff time to an ag tourism thing, but based on one of the committee members' comments, I can lose faith in that a little bit.
But listen, I will say on that note, you know, in the Ag and Art program, it's not a facility, obviously, but programs like that, you know, it's a part of the pie. You know, it's 8 slices, and there's no one curable slice. You know, you got to have a combination of things. And I think programs such as the Ag and Art Tour and other things and community leaders is what's going to help get something like that achieved.
Appreciate your
All right,
help.
thank you.
Yes, sir. Next person's our county manager, Bill Shanahan. He's going to discuss goals and objectives.
Yes, sir.
Inform me it will not be any longer than 1 hour.
There we go. No, basically due to the fact that I sent you all a copy of this and it will be on our webpage tomorrow, I'm just going to hit the highlights. In reference to the growth management goal, which is York County manages growth in a way that improves the quality of life in the county and provides for balanced growth. Our UD rezoning project, this is a continuation of the zoning ordinance revisions completed in January 2016. Planning is working on presenting a list of properties for Districts 3 and 7 to Council in order to rezone from the UD district to the appropriate residential district. The first set of parcels will be presented to the Planning Commission in July 2017. The department is scheduled to complete all parcels by the end of 2018. Our thoroughfare plan. The thoroughfare plan was started in May 2017. The plan will identify areas for future road connections and improvements. By identifying these corridors, the county will be better able to identify areas for preservation and future right-of-way. Kimberly Horn is in the data gathering phase of this project and will be reaching out to individual council members in the near future to discuss the transportation needs in each district. RFATs, we've been working with RFATs in reference to the collector road study. This is a regional equivalent to our thoroughfare plan. The collector road study is expected to be presented to the RFATs Policy Committee within the next couple of months. This study will identify future road connections and areas for right-of-way preservation. And finally, for growth management, stormwater utility district feasibility study. The consultant has completed the data gathering phase of the project and will now be conducting stakeholder interviews. The study will make recommendations to council on implementing a stormwater utility district to collect fees to help manage stormwater infrastructure. As part of growth management, the county has to secure funding sources for maintaining public facilities. Our fire service goal, York County will have a unified fire service that protects the county's citizens and properties in a cost-effective manner. Staff is working with Staff is working with Fitch and Associates to develop a 10-year master plan for fire service in York County. They've conducted their first on-site visit mid-May. They are in the process of collecting and analyzing the data that they received and will be scheduling individual department meetings within the next couple of weeks. Staff is constantly working with various departments to ensure ISO ratings are being preserved or improved. Leslie Fire Department went from a 5 to 3 ISO rating, and a lot of that is the funds and the equipment that York County provides for these folks. York County Department of Fire Safety is in a process of creating outside classes for those firefighters who have completed the South Carolina State Fire Academy. Staffing goals. York County employs the appropriate number of quality, responsive, goal-oriented staff with low turnover. HR staff have adjusted our onboarding duties in the areas of recruitment, screening prospective employees, enrolling new employees in payroll and benefits, and entering appropriate information into the software programs. These changes are having a positive impact on HR's efficiency and responsiveness to the hiring managers. HR has had one grievance, which was settled at the staff level, and when you have 1,100 employees, that is a good thing. That is a very good thing. HR sponsored 2 free employee health screening events, one in Rock Hill and one in York, in April to allow employees and retirees to have blood work completed and be screened for various medical conditions. HR is currently working with management to recruit a consultant to review our benefits packages concerning our ability to increase benefits for employees and to manage or improve costs associated with those benefits. In reference to economic development, York County creates an environment which leads to an increased commercial industrial tax base and high-paying jobs. Fiscal year to date, July 2016 to 2017, there were 69 new opportunities generated. We announced or completed 8 projects, 5 were new and 3 were expansions, which will create over time 455 new jobs. We had 5 new fill-out agreements administered, which will create 95 jobs and an eventual investment of about $69 million. Employment rates or unemployment rates in May of 2017, York County had 3.4%. Charlotte in April of 2017 had 4%. South Carolina in May of 2017 had 4.1%. And the United States in May of 2017 was 4.5%. So that was not too bad. Capital facilities. York County funds capital facilities and facility maintenance plans that enhance efficiency and customer service. The Moss Justice Center, the project status, phase 1 of the project, which consists of utility relocation, tunnel construction, parking deck construction, and new area parking is currently in process. The new parking area is completed and the utilities are very close to completion. The parking deck area has been graded and foundations are being placed. The tunnel precast components are on order and should arrive in August. Phase 2 of the construction process will include new office space, renovations to existing office space, and a new front entrance. Estimated completion date is June 2019. Family court facility and Heckle renovation. Project status. Phase 1 is currently in process. This package consists of erosion control, stormwater, clearing, mass grading, storm sewer system construction, utilities installation, building pad construction, curb and gutter and gravel for parking lots. The stormwater sedimentation pond has been completed and site grading is underway. Phase 2 was bid on July 6th with facility construction beginning as soon as the building pad is completed, which will be sometime around October. The Heckle renovation will be bid when the family court facility is approximately 50% complete, as renovation cannot begin until the building is partially vacant. Completion date is August 2019. Public Works. The pre-construction conference was held June 27th, and construction has started. The construction will consist of an addition and renovation of the current Public Works facility, new equipment maintenance facility, new roads maintenance facility, and other support facilities. Completion date is October 2018. The recycling center. The project is divided into 2 components. The first component is the building, and the second is the equipment. The construction of the building has begun with the contractor working on the building pad. The second component, equipment, will be bid out within the next 30 days. Completion date is September 2018. Fort Mill and Clover Magistrates. Work has begun in Fort Mill with wall demolition, carpet removal, and ceiling and tile removal. And it's basically, it has started in Clover now, and we are basically doing the same things in Clover. Completion date will be March 2018. Government Center. Installation of erosion control measures and grading has begun. The 80,000 square foot facility will replace the current agriculture building and include tax and finance staff, voter registration and election staff, and register of deeds staff. Completion date is March 2019. Existing facilities to be declared surplus and sold would be the White Street property, which is a good motor site, the 529 South Cherry Road, which has our magistrate and VA folks, the Catawba Mental Health Facility, and the Fort Mill Magistrate. And most of them, we've got people looking at them, so we don't think there'll be any issue with selling them. Roads goal. York County builds and maintains roads that are safe and alleviate congestion. Right now, we have about $40 million in pennies projects under construction. We have 30 miles of resurfacing projects going on at this time. We have $3.75 million of cost savings with pennies projects at this time. The SIB is still being evaluated by the by the state, and we're not hearing anything bad like it's going away, you're not getting it. It's still very positive, and they actually have a meeting on the 20th that we're going to be a part of, or going to visit, I should say. And on the last page of this, which I won't go through, I just showed a couple of the departments, the purchasing department and the IT department, because even though we have some very specific direct accomplishments to the goals, this shows some of the indirect things that are making the goals work. So with that, I will open up for any questions you might have.
Questions for Bill?
Thank you.
Sir, appreciate it, Bill. Next item, request council to approve the Hospitality Tax Advisory Committee's recommendation for financial year 2017 marketing grant funding.
Motion to defer.
Second.
Discussion. Question on the motion. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. Next item, council to consider approving the pennies for utility relocation policy.
Move to approve. Second.
Discussion. Yes, sir, Mr. Williams.
I guess I just wanted to point out that it's very similar to the pennies 3 from what I understand. I had some questions. I think we've gone from one extreme to the other, from not documenting anything. Now we want every possibility covered in a policy. But I think that maybe some general discussion will help make sure that we know that. And I tried to talk about Patrick, and Patrick may want to come up here and take over. But it's basically just some common sense stuff. One question I had was there's a policy in there about we won't bury utility lines. We won't pay for burying utility lines. Well, there's a scenario that was listed. Well, what if we designed the utility lines to be buried? Well, we'll pay for them then. So there's just some questions out there, I guess, with some of the utilities that I talked to Patrick about, and he can probably clear up.
Yep, if it's something that we're requiring, then of course we're going to pay for it. But if it's most standard situations where if they have an overhead electric line and they want to place it underground by their choice, then they're required to pay that cost to put it underground.
If they want to enhance it, then they pay the
right.
price.
That's a betterment or an
Moving the line.
improvement. Correct.
If
It's
they
just
enhance
moving
it,
back.
they pay the difference, or they pay the whole thing?
What's that? The difference. Right.
And that was another question
Yep.
I had.
I got it right here. Yep.
I mean that.
And like Councilman Williams said, it's essentially the same policy as on pennies 3, in that we're paying for all utilities regardless of prior rights. If it's a betterment or an upgrade, it's on the utility provider to pay for that unless it's a cost savings to the county. We had one situation where a utility had an underground copper line and it was actually cheaper to upgrade it to fiber optic. So we did that and saved about $300,000. So in certain situations, we will upgrade it if it's a less cost to us. Yes.
Yeah, the definition of upgrade includes the cost of it, not just.
Correct.
Not just the serviceability of it.
Mr. Roddy.
And since we're talking about utility relocation, and many people that's sitting out there watching at home, about what's the estimated cost for pennies 4 that we're looking at for utility?
Pennies 4, I think we estimated around 26%, I think roughly. So 25 to 30%.
And I guess another question that was there, there's one.
I'm sorry, that's wrong. It's about 26 or 28 million dollars. I apologize. So it's a lower percentage on pennies 4 than it is on pennies 3.
Right,
No,
because all the repaving.
Right, and the reason for that is there's much more of the resurfacing and much more intersection projects versus the large projects there were more larger projects on pennies 3, which you typically have a higher utility relocation cost on the large widening projects. But if it's more intersection projects like on pennies 3, those utility costs tend to be a little lower.
around 10% relocation on utilities. Is that what you're saying?
For the total referendum, yes.
We're at about 265 total.
Right, and we're about 26 to 30 million dollars in estimated. Again, that's, we have to design it and build it first, but yes.
And with all due respect, because you got a lot of people trying to do this with you or help you or whatever, do y'all feel like y'all have a good grip on this utility relocation? Since this is
As best we can at this stage in the game, yes. We got input from the utility providers while we were doing our cost estimating, which wasn't done in the past, so we feel like we have a better handle on them. Obviously, you're not going to know what it is until you go out there and design it and survey and see what's out there. But based on the early input we have, we feel this is the best number we could generate at this time without doing a design.
And all of them were pretty much straightforward and trying to give their best?
Most of them would work with us and help us and send us rough numbers and what kind of utilities they had on each of the proposed projects.
Mr. Williams?
The only other thing we discussed was the last line that said in extreme cases, we can require utilities companies to pay the penalty if they create it. And I think some of them may have seen that as, we're going to try to do that all the time, but our goal is to actually never exercise that. But the policy that we have now has no clawback in it when it is clearly the fault.
Right. It gets to where it's an enforcement issue of how can you prove that they've delayed the project. But and again, in extreme cases, it should be pretty obvious to everybody involved that they've delayed it. But on day-to-day stuff, in talking with the utility providers during the cost estimating phase, all of them were helpful, willing to work with us, so we don't foresee that being an issue on these projects.
I think that actually came out of something that Mr. Johnson suggested early on, was to encourage, if the utilities are participating in making sure we have proper designs, and everything's going to be fine.
Correct.
One more.
Mr. Roddy?
I know this doesn't directly relate to this item. Have we moved past the utility relocation situation on McConnell's Highway?
Yes, they have I believe they were supposed to be mobilizing today, actually.
Okay.
To work on those power poles on McConnell's Highway. Yes.
Any other questions for Patrick? Mr. Johnson?
I guess and this is a policy, and policies are great. Then you got to implement your policy and actually work with it on a day-to-day basis. How are we going to ensure that utilities are telling us where everything is located, and having some theoretical skin in the game if they just don't?
That was one of the issues that was brought up during the committee meeting, was being able to enforce something on them to make them do something. And I guess there really isn't a hard way to enforce that. But we're just going to try to have as much upfront communication with them as we can. And like I said, during the budgeting process, they were very supportive and on board to work with us. They're just like us. They want to get a project built and move on to the next one. So we are confident that we can have that early communication with them to get them involved. And since the county is footing the bill for all the relocations, we feel like they will be cooperative with us.
Are there any utilities that haven't been during this initial kind of reach out?
The budgeting, we've had good feedback from them.
From everybody?
Yep, they want to work with us. Like I said, we're footing the bill, so it's kind of a group effort for them and for us to get the projects done and move on to the next one.
I just want to make sure that, because my biggest nightmare is that we get down the road and all of a sudden you have a couple, they quit just getting along and trying to. I just want to make sure that this last paragraph, I've read this last paragraph to give us that stick, to say, you've chosen not to tell us where your utilities are located. We've now found your utilities. You're now going to pay to move them under that last
right,
part
and that's where
policy.
Staff feels like that early communication with them and coordination up front will help resolve those issues down the road, instead of coming to them, 2 years after we've been designing the project and wanting information from them. We're going to ask the information from them up front while our consultants out there doing survey, we're going to be asking them to provide some input as well. So when we're out there locating all the utilities, everybody is trying to locate all the utilities.
Would you agree with me, though? And I guess I'm trying to get you to, because I'd like the minutes to reflect that if a utility refuses to assist the county in finding where those utilities are located, that we will enact that in part of the policy and potentially fine them and punish them for refusing to assist us. We're not asking you to, we're asking you to be a part of this process.
Mm-hmm.
And I want, and if that is the policy, I'd like the minutes of this meeting to reflect that that's the policy.
Mr. Shanahan.
Yes, sir. One of the things that we're doing now on all pennies projects, if we're not getting the support from whatever entity that we're working with, it is brought up to management level, and we're handling it at management level, and up to now it's been very successful. But they haven't had to do it much, I gotta be honest.
And
The biggest thing is,
I agree, but I just want to make, I guess what I'm driving at, I want, and of course, council has to agree with this, but I think the minutes should reflect that this is our policy and this is how we expect it to be enacted going forward, because there's a big difference between a policy and then how you act day to day. And I want to make sure, I think utilities are going to do the right thing. I really do. But when they don't, I want to be able to hold them accountable for it.
Yeah,
That's,
and
that's all I'm
and
asking.
we would do that.
and that falls on a staff
no
level of
problem
us
saying that.
documenting all of our interactions with them and having meeting minutes from our communications with them that say, okay, you need to be finished by this date, and a year later they're still not done, then there's some questions that need to be asked. And so we keep minutes of all of our, our minutes from all of our meetings on each project, so that will help the documentation too. If staff and the council chooses to enforce the bottom bullet, then we'll have that documentation to support that.
And to me, that's the definition of extreme. If things happen, like you say, day to day, but if you're not cooperating and not doing that, is extreme, and that triggers that, the way that it reads to me now.
Very good.
And Patrick, I'm sure you realize that there's absolute faith in you and
Yes,
the
sir.
county, but knowing the history of all these things that have occurred,
Absolutely.
there's a little bit of concern about trusting what the utility companies are saying and doing, rightly or wrongly.
And I think that's part of, it's going both ways too. I think
Well,
we're
maybe.
That's why everybody put so much effort into writing this.
Yeah. Any other comments for Patrick? Thanks, Patrick. Appreciate it. Next,
We probably ought to vote.
Bill, did you have anything else you want to say? Okay. Next item, council to discuss and approve.
You think we should
Need to
vote on
vote.
it?
Oh, yeah, that would help. Okay. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed, no. Thank you, Mr. Williams. Got ahead of myself. Council to discuss and approve a council-initiated rezoning from the PD zoning district to the Rural Development District for property located at the corner of South Carolina Highway 161 and Battleground Road in the Kings Mountain Community, tax map number 17100000026.
And since this part's just discussion, I guess I'll kind of fill you in if you don't know. This is Bethany Santiago Volunteer Fire Department for a new station for them, a second station for them in the Kings Mountain area, just north of Clover's Elementary School up there. That area is growing, and there's a good bit of right at the edge of our county there where there's no real coverage, and so this will help the ISO rating, help the insurance for people in that area. I know we're in the middle of a 10-year study and all this other stuff, but in part of the county where we have no coverage, I can't see that a consultant's gonna say, no, don't help get some coverage there, especially when it's volunteer firefighters that are paying for, pretty much everything on their own with a lot of this. And they've been looking for property for a while, and I've been trying to help them with it, and they were able to find this and purchase it. So I just asked for it to be a council-initiated rezoning for this.
Okay. Any other comments?
There's been no motion.
No, there hadn't. And I'm a little concerned.
Well,
that
let's go ahead and get a motion since.
There's no motion to make, but, okay.
Oh, that is right. It's just discussion. My bad.
Well, it's an approve.
No, that's 3-2 from now. Well, that's 2 from now.
Okay. So I'll make a motion to discuss and approve The council initiated rezoning for this. I was a little confused because there's a vote afterwards on that.
Yeah, there's 3 different items.
Yeah.
This is just discussion, and then
Item?
the
Okay.
fee, and then the vote.
So do
But,
we have,
yeah.
do we have a second?
Second.
Okay, this is further discussion.
Yeah.
Okay. Anybody else? Mr. Williams?
Yeah, I was just gonna point out, I mean, hopefully that, I know it's an underserved area. This is the second fire station we're building beside a state line, which I'm not real crazy about, but we get to these pockets and that's all the choice we got, but hopefully we can get out ahead of this stuff in the future.
Unfortunately, that area is growing next to that.
I
state
understand.
line, and they actually, there's 2 of those fire departments.
If
up there.
we do mutual aid in North Carolina, then it's beneficial.
And in certain ones of these areas, they actually have to go into North Carolina and come back
Yeah,
into
the
South Carolina.
road has 2 exits.
Yeah.
One's in North Carolina, one's in South.
Any other comments? Question on the motion, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. Next item. Council to consider authorizing a waiver of the required application fee, alternatively designating Bethany Fire District as a responsible party for application fees.
I'd like to make a motion that council waive the fee.
Second.
Discussion, Mr. Williams.
Yeah, and I don't have a problem with this. I guess I just want, if we're gonna waive this one, I don't have a problem with that, but we've started waiving a lot of these. One of the consent agenda items was fees to cover the, who would have done that? Let the record reflect, Mr. Shanahan got a phone call.
Sorry, Bill.
That we have, one of the consent agenda items was fees to cover the cost of the planning department when they review all these applications. Well, that's, the goal is to have those fees cover those costs. If we're really going there, if we're gonna continue to do council-initiated rezonings, we need to put some money in our budget so that we can pay those fees, or technically, if they're gonna cover those costs, so that when we are doing charitable contributions, we're not just taking them out of the planning department's budget and putting them, so that's the only thing I'd want to point out, if we're gonna continue to waive fees, that we don't punish the planning department in doing so.
Mr. Chairman.
Yes, sir, Mr. Johnson.
I voted against the last waiver of a fee. I'm going to vote against this waiver of a fee tonight. Whether it's the Bethany Fire District or we appoint the Rural Fire Tax Board, who certainly has the funds to cover this rezoning as responsible party, that's who it should be. It shouldn't be just the county choosing to eat this money on every initiated rezoning. We seem to be in a habit over the past 3 months of every time somebody wants to have something rezoned, they just come up and they ask us to waive a fee, and we've just started waiving these fees. And part of it was, if the county moves and we are rezoning your land away from the UD, there was some sense that we would pay for it during that process. But if you're initiating these actions on your own, prior to the county getting to you, there is no sense for the county to start eating these fees, and that's what we're doing. I think, while I appreciate the motion, I think the motion should be changed, and we should appoint the Rural Tax Fire Board. There is an entity who can pay this, that collects taxes, that has money to spend on this exact type thing. They should be the responsible party, as opposed to the council, the county at large.
How much is the fee?
Not much.
Okay, yeah, Mr. Roddy.
I kind of like what Chad said. If we're going to be waiving fees, we need to put something in our budget to cover it down the road, because staff is still going to have time tied up into the process, even with I'm sure we're going to go through the regular process of sending mail outs and notifying the public and putting up the signs and all that stuff. So there's going to have to be some coverage of those fees. And then also, I kind of tend to agree with Mr. Johnson that if there's an entity that has money that typically could afford to cover this, why aren't they paying it? So I guess I just talked myself out of voting for it or against it. I don't know. Maybe I'll sustain from voting, but both of them made great points.
You'll make a good mayor.
Both of them made good.
I have a question along that line then. up to this point, we as a council have not directly, to my understanding, told the fire board, okay, you're going to, I mean, we approve their budget and they come to us and ask for things, but we haven't beforehand gone to them and said, we're appointing you to pay this fee. I'm not sure that that's something, I agree, and I'm not a big proponent on waiving fees for everything, but I think when it's a volunteer fire department that's, you know, offering a service to our residents, that's a little different than a homeowner who's wanting to rezone or redo it. But I'm wondering about the legality or the logistics of appointing the fire board to do that.
Well, let me, and you may, well, let me just ask this, and I'll let Kevin, you get to your point, but I'm assuming we've had to deal with this before with volunteer fire departments. Have we ever, as a council, in the history of the council, waived the fee in the past?
I believe we did it for Smyrna. When Smyrna did their second station on Highway 5 in my district, I'm pretty sure we waived it for them. But
Are you saying no, or what? I'm just kind of like, and I'm getting to you, Kevin, but I'm kind of like Mr. Johnson. I'm starting to see a flood, and I'm always prone to getting nervous when I see that happening. So I'm kind of not warm and fuzzy about this one. But Kevin,
I cringe every time we waive these fees. We have a new planning position that is to be paid for with new fees. The rural fire board does not have in their budget to pay for stuff like this, but I think that is the right place to pay for something like this if we're going to, you know, waive it. I think we let them pay for it rather than us completely waive it. And doing a budget amendment is not a big deal down the road if we need to. If these things add up, we need to go adjust their budget amendment. They do a very healthy fund balance.
On the agenda, the Bethany Fire District is suggested as a responsible party. I mean, if we made them the responsible party and then they turn around and got the money from the rural fire board, they could do that, or just from their fire district.
so
But I agree with Mr. Winkler to pull a third party in and designate them to pay a fee that they weren't planning on. But here, if we don't waive the fee, Bethany Fire District's got to pay it one way or another. And they can find where it comes from.
well, Michael, is that true? If we vote this down, it automatically goes to the Bethany Fire District?
No, we have to make
That's the posture of the motion. It's to either waive or alternatively designate Bethany Fire District.
So by voting the motion down, we're doing that?
By voting the motion down, you're simply not designating anyone which the summary says effectively waives the fee.
So we have to come back and have a new motion to designate who's responsible?
Yes, or I think you could move for the alternative to designate the district as the responsible party.
Right.
Okay, well, you're talking about an alternative motion,
Yes.
and I don't hear one.
Well, you got to vote on this one, and then we'll make that one.
Yeah, oh, well. All righty, if there's no further discussion, question on the motions, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no?
No.
No. So I think it's.
Mr. Chairman, I'd like to make a motion to name the Bethany Fire District as a responsible party for the application and rezoning in case number 17-27.
Thank you. Second.
Okay, discussion. Question on the motion, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. Next item. Next item, consider first reading case number 1727, tax map number 17100000026, rezone property from PD to RUD at South Carolina 161 and Battleground Road in the Kings Mountain area.
Move to approve.
Second.
Discussion. Question on the motion, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. Now we go back to the first public hearing.
There's only one.
Council to hold a public hearing and consider third reading of an ordinance to levy and reimpose a 1% sales and use tax, subject to a referendum within York County pursuant to the Capital Project Sales Tax Act, South Carolina Code 410-300 ET-SEQ, as amended to define the specific purpose or purposes and designate the projects for which the proceeds of such tax may be used, to provide the maximum time for which such tax may be imposed or reimposed for a period provided by law, to provide the approximate cost of the projects or facilities funded from the proceeds of such tax and the approximate amount of net proceeds to be raised by such tax, to provide for a countywide referendum at the 2017 general election, to permit the existing 1% sales and use tax to be reinstated and continue without interruption, to prescribe the contents of the ballot question in such referendum, to provide conditions precedent to the imposition of such tax and conditions or restrictions on the use and expenditure of such tax revenue, including utility relocation, to establish the priority in which the net proceeds of such tax, if approved in a referendum, are to be expended for the projects and purposes stated, and to provide a formula or system by which multiple projects may be funded simultaneously, to authorize the York County Board of Voter Registration and Elections to conduct a referendum, to provide for the administration of such tax if approved, to provide for the payment of such tax, to provide for the administration of the program, and to provide for other matters related thereto. Anybody here want to speak against? Anybody want to speak in favor? Yes, Billy. Okay.
Speak for and against.
All righty.
We hadn't requested that one yet. That's next.
My name's Billy Hagner. I live at 1901 Voyager Road in York. I just want to start off by just kind of recapping the pennies. I'm sure y'all are aware of most of this. Pennies 1, there was 15 projects, and 15 projects were completed. They were 91% over the referendum amount, how much it cost to complete it. Took 17 years to complete. Pennies 2, there were 25 projects on that referendum. There's going to be 12 or 13 completed on that from that referendum. 2 were completed by South Carolina by DOT. 2 were dropped, and 8 were carried over to Pennies 3. Pennies 3, there was 14 projects on the referendum. And 9 of those 14 are going to be completed. 5 are being carried over to Pennies 4. Now these 5 that are being carried over are really projects from Pennies 2. So we got 5 projects from Pennies 2 to going to Pennies 3, going to Pennies 4. They have collected now, I think at the end of the first quarter, they've collected $134 million. $134 million, and they've expended $42 million. I don't have the latest one, the June numbers yet. Okay, for Pennies 4, we're proposing 20 projects. 14 of them are new projects. 1 is the maintenance and resurfacing, which is a large number. And then we're having the 5 project that's being carried over from Pennies 2 to Pennies 3 to Pennies 4. The estimated cost is going to be, for all of them, is going to be $277 million. And the estimated tax receipts is $265 million, which may be conservative, may not be. So we're starting off with approximately $10 million in the hole right off the bat. As far as just, I know you know the voter information, you know, how involved are people, how concerned are people about this? Back in 98 when it started, 23% of the voters voted, and it was almost a even, it was very close whether it would pass back then. Only had about 8,500 people voting for it. Pennies 2, less people voted, even though the voter rolls went up. Only 14,000 people total voted for it. There was more support for the program. There was 10,400 people voted for it at that time. Pennies 3, even less people voted for it. Only 9% of the people came out to vote for it or against it. Only 9,600 people voted for it. So what I'm saying is, looks like the same amount of people are coming out and voting yes for it every time, and the people against it are just gradually decreasing. Now, what's going to happen this time, I just don't know. I was on the Pennies Citizen Committee with 3 other folks, and we made some recommendations to y'all several months ago, and I thought I'd just review them quickly. And one was, first thing we recommended, be sure we had credible estimates. And I feel like Patrick and his group in the engineering department has made a lot of efforts to improve on this. Lots more money has been spent, more consulting time, getting the utility companies involved in it more. So I think they have made good effort and lots better results on the estimates this time. I certainly hope so. We thought the county should control all the projects, not any of the municipalities. And I think that was all agreed upon by everybody, and hopefully going forward, only the county will be managing the projects. We asked for staffing flexibilities for the Pennies group, and I think everyone agreed upon that they need to have the amount of people that they need to manage these projects. Another one we said was put the underfunded and carried over projects to the top of the list in the next Pennies 4. And it looks like that was done this time. The way I read it in the media package, it looks like it's got those 5 projects at the very top. And I'm certainly hoping that those will have the top priority, because here again, that's really Pennies 2 projects that we're looking at here. People are probably getting tired of not seeing some results. And just as an example of that, and this is not one of them, this is a Pennies 2 carried over to Pennies 3, Pole Branch Road. I'm a poll clerk at that precinct, and as you know, everybody has had a lot of opportunities to vote the past several months. People were getting kind of tired of it, and I was reminding everybody that we were probably going to have one more election to come up in November, and telling them it was Pennies. And needless to say, most of the people in the Pole Branch area wonder, well, why in the world should I vote for Pennies 4 when we have been voting time and time again for our Pole Branch Road to get completed, and we haven't seen any results yet. And so there's probably a good bit of that still out there, and I doubt if it's gotten any better, since we do have a lot of projects that have not been completed. Another recommendation was underfunded project procedure. Have y'all come up with a policy? We know regardless of what happens, we probably will have projects that we'll go over. Have y'all come up with a policy for how you're going to manage that? Where's the money going to come from? Is it going to be taken from the last project? Is that project going to be changed, or what's going to be done in order to fund that project? We asked for Pennies 4 to have 25 to 50% road maintenance, and also for it to be non-specific, not to have it listed. What's on the referendum now is about 18%, which is considerably more than we had in the past, but it's not what we were hoping, exactly what we were hoping for. And we were hoping it wouldn't have to could be non-specific, so we didn't have to list them all, because it's hard to say what we're going to need maintenance-wise 7 years out from now, but that didn't happen. Next thing we had was our recommendation on utility relocation, and needless to say, y'all just approved to go ahead and pay for all of the utilities. Our recommendation was to use the prior rights method, which the state does. And what that means is that the people have the legal right to have the utilities in that area, then Pennies would pay for it, and they would not have to. If they didn't have the rights, they would have to pay for it. And I think everybody knows that if you have money, if you know you're going to have to pay for something, you're going to be a lot more involved, a lot more encouraged, and see that everything's going to be done right, so they'll have the minimum amount of cost involved. So in my opinion, what y'all have done, I guess tonight, was kind of took the political route out rather than the most economical one. The last one was accountability. We need to hold everybody involved accountable, county employees, consultants, utilities, and municipalities, and most of all yourself, the county council. County council should review the economics and the percent complete of all the uncompleted projects on a quarterly basis. Y'all are the ones that are ultimately responsible to see that the Pennies does what we say we're going to do. You need to be sure the taxpayers get what they're voted for and be very transparent. I don't think this has necessarily happened in Pennies 1 through 3. Although I do think we have a lot of strides have been made in order to improve this situation. I think we're headed in the right, y'all are headed in the right direction. So in summary, track record for pennies 1 through 3 hasn't been very good at all. Although I'm not saying being critical of the projects, we have a lot of good projects. I've benefited from them. Everybody in this room's benefited from the projects. But doing what we said we were going to do, we haven't done that. Pennies 4, we need to be sure that we're doing what we're going to say and doing what we say we're going to do. If you're confident that you can deliver on budget, completing all the projects on this penny 4 referendum, then you should proceed to vote to do it. If you're undecided and you don't think so, then you should vote no and spend more time and effort until you got the confidence that we can do what we say we're going to do. There are plenty of projects in the works for right now to keep the pennies groups busy, the consultants, the construction companies, for quite some time. There could even be a 1-year moratorium in the tax collection. I know this would be very concerning in the political ranks to stop collecting taxes for a year. So if y'all vote yes tonight, then what I'm assuming is that y'all are telling all the taxpayers and voters in the county that y'all are confident that we can complete all these projects, all these 20 projects for the $265 million. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, Bill. Appreciate it. Anybody else want to speak? I guess that was in favor, I think. In favor, Paul? Or Jerry? Paul?
Paul Andrico. I want to thank Billy for
Give your address.
Pardon me?
Give Karen your address.
Paul Andrico, Rock Hill, South Carolina. I want to thank Billy for coming up and giving an in-depth overview. I wish David Duncan could have been here tonight also. We spent a lot of time in the committee, but the most important part is I'm not going to lose this time by 7 votes. I'm only going to lose by 6 votes because Christie's not here. So that makes me feel a little bit better. But the most important part is when we looked at all the pennies is how the money, the next project got money stolen, then the next project got money stolen. So all of a sudden it's being pushed out to pennies 2, pennies 3, pennies 4, or when we do pennies 5, how many projects. So I think it's up to you to take a look at saying, Patrick, you can't steal from number 7th project or number 8 project, because Billy and I both know that you're going to have $10 to $13 million, and I think the utilities, what Patrick has underestimated, is going to be an extra $5 million. So the last 2 projects are probably not going to get completed. So what I'm asking you to do is because I know you're going to vote for it, is put something in there that they can't steal. Like we know in Britt's area, Evanport Road has just been kicked out completely. Ebenezer been kicked out completely. So those are 2 projects that the future mayor is going to have to worry about on the roads. But I think if you can put something in there to protect those projects, which are all state road projects, and maybe somewhere the money can come from the state to help us, which probably not. But anyways, that's what I ask you to do. Take a look, make sure other projects are not, money is not taken from them. Let's complete something for once, if you're going to vote yes. Thank you.
Thank you, Paul. Jerry? Oh, I was going to say, I love you, Billy, but not twice.
I promise to be brief this time. We did put the carryover projects at the top, like we promised. We did work on roads for maintenance. We did it in a logical, systematic way by asking every member of every community, from Sharon to York to Hickory Grove to Clover to Lake Wiley, all around, to give us their list. Then we took it and we applied it to the mission. And we came up with a list, not to fix potholes, but to repair roads and repave them. We did it in such a manner that there was nothing that could be done but repave them so people could not drive up the prices. And furthermore, that once the revenue comes in, the asphalt can hit the road to make people's lives better and people's lives safer. I think that's wonderful. I think that's the right thing to do, and that's what we did. The commission, there's no money been stolen anything from Pennies for Progress. The great thing about pennies is it's very specific in the law and how the funds do, and it's prioritized. You can't change the past. All you can do is learn from the past to work in the present to make the future better. And that's what this commission has done. That's what this county staff has done. The list that is before you comes from the various lists that we generated from almost 2 years of going around and getting the input. There are great projects there. There are important projects there. They drive economic development. They save lives, prosperity, quality of life, and they touch everyone in every community. And without Pennies for Progress, places like Clover and York, et cetera, would fight all these needed projects for Fort Mill. And you guys know how I am about economic development and trying to drive this and make things in connection with corridor. But we purport to make sure that people understood that this is about integrity, which we added to our thing. You formed a commission, and the commission researched and represented their areas. You know, my list and what the commission's list, it'll be different because some of these things we know and, you know, I believe. But I respect the democracy that we live under. I respect the fact that people represent their communities and do their best. And I respect the fact that we breathe that the spirit of pennies is to make York County the place people want to work and live and prosper. And I promise you that we have done that. You know, and most importantly, we'll save lives. Thank you for giving me the opportunity to be chairman for the 3rd time. We have poured our heart and soul in it. There's no perfect list, but there's no bad list. This is a list that will take us forward, and if we work together, the projects that some of us hoped that would be on there, we've created unstoppable momentum, and if we work together, we'll find the funding to take it forward. York County is revered from other places and envied because of what we've achieved. Almost $1 billion when we had very little when we started. So that's what we've done. We've represented. Allison Harvey came down from Clover. She had a commitment. She left. She wanted to speak, but she wanted me to say they're grateful for what we've done and they're in support of it. So I pass that on for her. That's all I have to say. Thank you for what you're about to do. I promise you that I will work with my heart and soul to make sure that this gets passed so that we can continue to move this community forward. Thank you.
Thank you, Jerry. Anybody else want to speak in favor? We have a motion to close?
Move to close.
Second.
Discussion, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. Do we have a new motion?
Move to approve.
Second.
Discussion? Mr. Roddy?
I want to start off by saying I want to go ahead and appoint Jerry chairman of the next pennies. No, but on a
he's leaving now.
He'll be back. On a more serious note, you know, some of the things that have been discussed about the good and the bad about pennies, several things were said here tonight that I do agree with. Certainly, you know, accepting the challenge to say that we will complete all these projects under budget or on budget with what we have to work with. I can't help but think we're not going to be able to do it. And I know in the past we've come up short, and the past can only be the past can be a strong indicator of what we're going to face coming up. So I don't fully anticipate hitting every single project on the list because we have yet to do it since '97. Does this mean we shouldn't do it? No, it doesn't, because there are some good projects that we know we're going to be able to get to. And I've said in the past, one of the things that gives me the rub each time pennies kind of comes out is the projects that's listed in my district are always the last project, and it's always the one that gets carried forward. I've said over and over, we need to respect everybody's district, and some of the projects that weren't completed, going all the way back to the original in 1997, those didn't get completed until I got on council 3 years ago. So I know what it's.
How long ago?
About 3 years ago.
Oh, when it was completed.
Yeah, when it was completed.
Okay.
So I know what it's like to have projects dangling out there that gets transferred and transferred and transferred. Does that mean we shouldn't be in the business of utilizing what the state allows us to do with pennies? I don't think so. But I can certainly sympathize or empathize with those communities who have had projects that were on pennies 2, that didn't go to the top of the list on 3, that ultimately made it over to 4. But I think we've kind of corrected that flaw by now putting left carryover projects to the top of the list. So we are learning from our mistakes of the past. So I think that's a good thing, and Jerry touched on it so well. Certainly, we all wanted to see more funds go towards road maintenance and pavings. I can assure you, all of us up here asked for more money. We weren't able to come up with that bigger number, but I think this is the first time we're able to put the repavings on the list. Is it gonna solve all our problems if we would have gotten that amount? Probably not, but I do think that York County is better because of pennies. We're the leader when it comes to these projects that spur economic development. And it's been said every year I've been on council, where would this county be if we didn't have pennies? You know, we can live with our shortcomings, but can we live with what we would have been stuck with had we not done pennies going back to '97? I hope and pray that we're able to get to it, but I'm an optimist on one hand, and I'm a realist on the other hand. I can assure you, we probably will not hit every project and meet budget, and so there's probably gonna be a carry forward. That's just being realistic. You know, I'm optimistic, but I'm a realist at the same time. I'll be shocked and amazed if we are able to do it, but we know costs increase. Projects take on a redesign once they're set in stone, and we have to incur some more costs, but, you know, we all must support this pennies going forward, and I guess hope for the best and hope prices don't skyrocket too fast, but the pennies is a great chance for us to continue to grow and try to address this traffic issue that we have here in the county, because every community throughout Rock Hill, York County, Fort Mill, Clover, traffic is increasing. We hear that traffic. But pennies does allow us to address some of these pressure point areas and give us an opportunity to bring some relief to certain intersections and certain roads. So certainly pennies is a good opportunity for us to step out. But if I had to vote based on my word to say that we're gonna hit every project and be on budget, I would have to vote no, but that's not gonna be my stipulation for voting for pennies.
Mr. Winkler.
First of all, I just want to say thank you to the Pennies Commission for all the time and effort that you put into it, and thank you to the Citizens Committee for all the time and effort that you put into it. Thanks to both of y'all, I believe Pennies 4 is the best pennies referendum that's been put out so far. There were a lot of improvements made thanks to the Citizens Committee. Thank you to Patrick and the staff, because I've spent some time talking to Patrick about different things, and you know, it's not the perfect list, it's not the perfect referendum, but it is much better than any that we've put before the citizens to this point. And we can thank both those citizens groups who all volunteered a whole lot of time to work on this, and we can thank Patrick and his staff and the engineering staff, because they have taken a lot of those points and worked them into this, into the budgeting and the estimates and that type thing. I have a lot of faith in Patrick and the engineering staff, and that these will be good numbers. Now, things do happen. We all know that. I make my living doing financial plans and budgeting for people, and I tell people we make the best plans we can, and then life happens. And, you know, we have to have contingencies for that and work on that. But I sincerely believe this is the best one. There's some roads in my area that I'd love to have, you know, done differently, or maybe more repaving. But it's, in my opinion, the best one we put before the voters. And I think I've got a lot of faith in Patrick and his staff, and in the improvements, that the citizens, the list of citizens put together and the improvements that the ad hoc committee suggested that we did incorporate into everything. So I will be supporting it.
Thank you, sir. Any other comments? Nope. Was that a yes? Nope. Nope.
Yeah.
Ms. Love?
To go from being a citizen paying an unnoticed 1% tax to sitting here 6 months later thinking, oh my gosh, whoever knew that so much effort and time and that there were so many people who were just, residents like me that had an interest in this, unlike me, who had an interest in this, because I really didn't. I just paid the tax and thought, gosh, hope they pave some of these roads because we've got some of the worst roads in the area. I am a huge advocate for pennies, and if there's anybody in District 2 that wants to sit down and have a conversation over why they feel like they would not vote for pennies over Pole Branch Road or something that hasn't gotten done quite fast enough for them, I'd be happy to sit down one at a time or as a group and tell you exactly why pennies is a great thing for York County. I'm super excited to have the roads in my district on the list, and I think the Pennies Commission, I attended a couple of those meetings. I made a presentation at one of those meetings, and you know what? I'm in agreement with everything that they've done. I'm a shoot for the moon type. I don't care if we come out of the end of this and we have some things that need to carry over to another pennies. That's okay with me. But to go into something feeling like you're going to make it and feeling like you're going to do it and accomplish it, I think that is what gets you as far along as you do get. So the goal for me is not to accomplish this 100%. I'm not even going to be challenged by that, quite frankly. I'm going to vote for it. I'm going to stick by it for as long as I'm on council, and I'm looking forward to having a lot more roads paved throughout York County.
Anybody else? Let me just add to it. I mean, Pennies is a great program. Just look at all the highways and roads we have that we would not have had if we had to count on the state. We were kind of the orphan county up here, and the initiative of previous council members and county staff have made it happen, so I'm certainly going to support this. But my biggest frustration in my 7 years on the council has been road costs. It's always just been very disheartening to me how it's out of control. And I think this time around it's going to be the best control net we've had. You know, just in the past 6 months, costs have gone up 40%. Before Billy and Paul and others that served on that committee, Alex Hafley set me down my first year going over numbers and the shocking realities of cost of Pennies 1. So I think the warnings are needed and are true, and we need to be very cognizant of doing everything we can. And we have a great asset in Patrick, and tremendous asset. I think we do need to consider getting Cummings or somebody like that in there to help him out and really oversee this thing thoroughly. But that being said, you know, it is a great program, and it looks like it's coming around better through the Jerry's committee and the committee that the council formed, Paul and Billy and the others that were on it, and the staff being on top of it. I think we'll have better control on this one than any other past, but we can do even better, I think, to make sure it's on time and under budget. That would be great. Question on the motion. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed, no. Next item is committee reports. The Honorable Chairwoman Allison Love, Zoning Committee.
On July 6th, Councilman Roddy and Councilwoman Cox and I met with County Management to discuss what is one of Council's most important priorities, in my opinion, and that is growth management. So we had a conversation, and we asked the County Planning and Zoning Department to look into a few things that are as a function of growth management, items that are a result of unmanaged growth. And those things specifically, without naming everything, but some specifics are traffic, clear cutting, high density, and stress on infrastructure. So they will look into those different categories and get back to us with what their recommendations are, what they see that we can do as our commitment to growth management, what we can do better.
Thank you, ma'am. Next is Finance and Operations Committee. Honorable Michael Johnson.
Finance Operations met this afternoon at 5 o'clock. we considered applications, and we approved for a Hospitality Tax Advisory Committee, District 6, Peter McVean, the at-large, Jane Scarborough. However, the committee did note that Ms. Scarborough is an employee of the Old English District, and that while she does not participate in any of the votes or the conversations about it, that the Old English District has been awarded H-tax dollars in the past. On the Keep York County Beautiful, we named Jessica Smith for the at-large position. The Oakdale Fire Tax District, we appointed Mary Jo Sowell for a second term. The Employee Grievance Committee for Planning and Development, Melinda Love. Public Works, Ryan Blank. Engineering, Teresa Bass. IT, Marion Harriet. Lake Wiley Marine Commission, reappointed Blanche Bryant for a second term. Rock Hill York County Airport Commission, we nominated Mark Kramer for a first term. We also had a presentation on water and sewer rates. The full council received this same, we had the same grouping. We all saw the same presentation back in January. However, we looked at it again, and we approved unanimously out of committee a rate increase in an effort to reduce the borrowing costs. The county is going to need $140 million to fund water and sewer infrastructure improvements over the next 10 years. And there were two, as everyone knows, there were two alternatives. There was one in which it would be 100% financed. There was one in which we would pay as we go. We have opted to try to go with a finance approximately $30 million and pay as we go with the rest of it. The savings on interest will be in the millions of dollars. And these are needed improvements that must happen. We also had a discussion regarding H-tax. There are two businesses that have collected H-tax but have not paid it, totaling over $146,000. We've asked, right now we are investigating enforcement mechanisms. There's nothing clearly placed in the statute, in the ordinance, which allows us to move forward. But we've asked staff to look into that and in ways in which we can better enforce the collection of H-tax, because and especially with businesses that are collecting it and not bothering to pay it.
Would that not be under Department of Revenue?
Statute delegates the collection to the counties and the option to implement the ordinance in each local jurisdiction. So we are going to look at that, including Department of Revenue, but the ordinance currently is silent on that front.
Okay, thank you, sir. Thank you, Mr. Johnson. Council member, new non-agenda comments. Any comments by council?
Yes.
Yes. Mr. Williams.
I was just going to say when I started to say it, when we were talking about pennies, but I didn't want to take for granted that it would pass. In the previous referendums, there's a third-party advocacy group that has worked with it, as well as the last bond referendum we had. We can't get involved a whole lot in that, but I would recommend, if that's staff's intent, that we get in touch with, to make that decision sooner rather than later. Our next meeting is August 21st. It probably shouldn't wait until then.
Yeah, they've already contacted us.
Very good.
It's a green light. Ms. Love.
I've been waiting for a visual. I got one tonight. There's one thing that I have a problem with, and I've said this, and I've been waiting on a visual. So will you raise your hand tonight if you're from District 2, Lake Wiley area?
Wow.
Thank y'all for coming. But here's what I need council to see. These people have been here tonight for 1 hour and 40 minutes. And when we ran for office, we knew that we were going to be sitting here a long time at night. A lot longer than this some nights. But when somebody wants to come and speak to us, I believe that they should come and speak to us, and it should not be a deterrent. I don't feel like that we should put them at the end, the very end, so that they have to sit through everything. They're really not interested in all the other things that we talked about tonight. They're only interested in what they came to talk about tonight, and that's fair. We're not gonna, hey, I did it for 2.5 years, sat right out there and did the same thing that you're waiting to do. And I didn't have to wait so long because they had us at the beginning of the agenda. But I just feel like for people to come and spend their night, for me to be away from home tonight, I ran for that. I asked for it. Be careful what you ask for. But these people didn't ask for that. So they've sat here for an hour and 40 minutes away from their families, away from their children. They probably haven't had dinner. And I just feel like I would like to move this citizen concerns back up to the beginning of our agendas. That's just something I would like for our chairman and our vice chairman to consider going forward.
I hear you, but the reason of course, if it's an action item, of course they're at the front, but we've had situations where not this group, but others that want to abuse the privilege and take us away from our civic duties. So when it's back on the agenda, if it ever gets on the agenda, absolutely they'll be at the front of the meeting.
But our civic duty is to listen to them, no matter what they're here to talk about.
I'm the one that put on the public forum stuff.
I just think it's a deterrent. I want people, I love to talk to people from my district, and I want people to come. I don't care if I hear from you here, or if I hear from you sitting over at the bagel boat, you know, on any time. But I want to hear from them, and I don't want to inconvenience them. I would be an unhappy person if I had to sit here for this long, and only one of them speaking. So, I mean, I'm just saying, as a convenience and as a courtesy, I would just like for that to be considered. Otherwise, I'll just meet with them. Listen, I'll just meet with you out somewhere in Lake Wiley, and then I'll bring everything to the bench.
Mr. Roddy.
I was just going to bring up that Allison and I have been in conversations with animal control, and they are working on some things to bring to the committee. Hopefully they'll have it within the next couple of months. They've been working on it for a while. She's very passionate about it, and so I'm looking forward to having those conversations that through the committee before it comes to council. But Susan is working on some things that she sees that animal control can benefit from, and it's being driven by her and her staff, mainly with some input from a very small group, not an overwhelming group, but she's working on some stuff. And I just kind of wanted to go ahead and put that out there, so when we do get to that point, we can look back on tonight and say, you know, it was referenced that it's coming.
Thank you, sir. That being said, Don, your time has come. And you've waited so long for Miss Love that if you need 10 minutes, you got it instead of the normal 5.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. And thank you, Ms. Love, for your comments. We feel this is pretty important, so we're willing to spend the time. And the group I speak for tonight has spent a considerable amount of time on this issue in years past. My name is Don Clark. I live at 3878 Concord Road in Lake Wiley, which is a York mailing address. I'm speaking tonight for a group we call Catawba Nuclear Neighbors. And I will explain this group more fully later in my presentation. In late May of this year, Duke Energy mailed a postcard invitation to a meeting that Duke Energy had scheduled for June 7, 2017 to discuss sale of Duke Energy property in the Concord Road area. The card stated, drop by between 5 and 7. Representatives will be available to answer questions. Only immediate area residents were notified by mail. And not all of those received the mailing, so they obviously used an old mailing list. I arrived at the meeting at the Clover YMCA shortly before 5 o'clock, and the meeting room was already mobbed with residents. The paper reported there were 200 people there. Because Duke had not planned a formal presentation, the scene was mildly chaotic and noisy, with dozens of conversations going on simultaneously in the clearly undersized room. They used the community room, which probably was rated for 50 people.
Where was that meeting?
At the new Clover YMCA, Clover School District YMCA. Inside the room at various tables were Duke representatives of the Real Estate Department, Communications, Shoreline Management, as well as representatives of York County Emergency Management Department. A map of the subject parcel and a one-page handout were distributed. The aerial map showed the existing home sites and the undeveloped sale land as it exists today. No other features or legend was included on the map. I brought a couple of visuals. I'll show you if you can bring up the first one. So that's the peninsula. The map that basically Duke showed us at that time just had kind of a green blob, which indicated that the land that is for sale. There were 5 property facts listed on a separate handout. So we're talking about, if you can pull that back up again. Yeah, no. So we're talking about this area here. The plant sits right here. And we're talking about all of the interior land in this area.
Show me again where the bridge is.
The bridge, that's the bridge.
Okay.
And so the
On
subject
274.
Right.
subject land is here.
Huh?
That's the bridge on 274. The Duke Energy plant is the little button.
Right. The Duke Energy plant sits basically right here where it's actually very close to the water here. Here's 274.
Yeah, I'm talking.
Concord Road coming
Right,
down.
okay, that's
Here's
what I was talking about.
Here's the Concord Road Bridge.
Yeah.
And here's the undeveloped peninsula. 5 property facts were listed in a separate handout, this handout, which we got at the meeting. The size of the sale parcel is 348 acres, zoned RD2. The land was originally purchased before construction to support the nuclear plant. Think about that. When they decided to build the nuclear plant, they basically purchased all of the undeveloped land. So at least somebody thought it was a good idea to have an undeveloped buffer around the plant in 1975. There's also, as you know, a shoreline management plan that regulates construction. And they did indicate that under the current zoning, 20% of the 348 acres would have to be green space. The subject property is east of the nuclear plant and on the west shore of Lake Wylie. And as we talked, there's a 2-lane road that comes in. There are a couple of turn lanes on the entrance to the Duke plant here, but it's a 2-lane bridge and a 2-lane road down into here. And then there are dirt roads, a couple of paved roads that go off of this area. The consensus of the residents I spoke to on June 7th, as well as since June 7th, is that they learned very little about what Duke was actually planning to do, other than to sell the land as one complete tract, and that the sale would be handled by a broker to be selected. Questions concerning evacuation at the meeting and since have been referred to York County Emergency Management as not being a Duke area of responsibility. We have some questions about that. Duke's senior spokesman at the meeting was Rick Duran, the South Carolina Vice President for Community Relations. He gave the following statement to the Rock Hill Herald at the end of the meeting. Duke was reaching out to the community to help form a comprehensive path forward rather than forming one on its own to force onto the area. He continued that Wednesday's forum was the first step in communication between the company and the community. The night was about gathering feedback so they could work with the homeowners, the county, and the eventual buyer to create a win-win. Residents were encouraged to submit their address and concerns on comment cards, and they were collected at the meeting. Within days of that June 7th meeting, I was shown 2 site maps of the subject sale area, one of which is, I'll have Karen pull up for us. It's the 3rd. Okay, that's the subject sale. This is a conceptual plan that was put together by NAI Southern Real Estate on behalf of Duke. The engineering was done by McAdams Surveyors during the month of May. They were in the area of the peninsula. The date of this proposal is, as I recall, it is May 14th. If you scroll out a little, excuse me, April. Yeah. Can you shrink it up a little bit? Okay, so the date is the date of the presentation. I think it's 4/11. So April, there it is, April 11. So this property was being marketed by Southern Realty almost 2 months before the community open house, where Duke told us they wanted to get our feedback. What's perhaps even more disturbing is that the information that we have from those who were given this presentation was that they wanted to receive bids for this by July 18th, which is tomorrow. That they wanted to make a decision on who to sell this property to by the end of the month, and that that buyer would have to the end of the year to do their due diligence. So this particular scenario shows what you could do with sewer and gutter if you put, sewer and water. If you put in curb, gutter, and storm sewers, you could increase the density under RD2. I'm going to give you a little background at this point. Can we go back to the original map, Karen? There's approximately, I did a physical count, there's about 115 home sites on the edge of this property. And incidentally, all of these home sites predate the nuclear plant. So they were there before the nuclear plant was. So it's not a function that home sites were put there after the nuclear plant. There are actually, that blue dot actually represents a home that was there before the lake was there. So that home is over 200 years old. So these home sites were leased and later sold by Duke prior to the announcement and subsequent construction of the Catawba nuclear plant. And then at the time they decided to construct it, Duke went ahead and bought all of the undeveloped land. And again, I have to think when I read the NRC siting guidelines that somebody at the time thought it was a good idea not to have population on the east side when there's only one road out. Duke acknowledged that they purchased this land in the plant site prior to construction. They had previously attempted to sell this undeveloped land in 2004, and that's when Catawba Nuclear Neighbors were formed, the group I speak for today. The Duke president at that time, Dr. Ruth Shaw, responded to community concerns by saying the land would not be sold during the nuclear station's hydro relicensing process. She assigned a Duke representative, Mr. Tim Gauze, as point person to work with Catawba Nuclear Neighbors. Over the course of 3 years, a low-impact, low-density development combined with a nature preserve were conceived. And two of the folks who were principal in working with Duke over that 3-year period are here tonight. And I have a copy of that original plan if the council's interested in taking a look at it.
Don, I'll give you a heads up. It's been 11 minutes. I'm going to let you wrap up at 5.
Okay, let me do that.
You got 3 more minutes.
We have numerous unresolved questions concerning safe evacuation and responsible development of the property. The zoning is and always has been RD2, which gives a developer a wide range of high-density options for this land. Can you show me the middle slide, Karen? And you'll need to, this is the exclusion zone, which is mandated by the NRC. You can see the Concord Road runs within, that's a 2,500-foot circle, which is drawn from between the 2 reactors. If you drew the circle around Unit 1, it would include the bridge. We know there are more issues to be concerned about today than just a nuclear accident. We know there are terror incidents, et cetera. One of the questions is, would the bridge be adequate for evacuating a higher density of population? The other thought is, would the bridge even be available in the event of a terror incident, et cetera? So right now, there's less than probably 200 full-time people that live east of the plant. Under the plan, if they went to max zoning, they could literally put a couple thousand more people out there. My time tonight is limited. Thank you for that. And we feel that our time to impact what Duke has decided to do is also limited. And what I'm asking this council to do is, we think there are reasonable alternatives for that land. We spent 3 years working with Duke 10 years ago to come up with a plan. There are grants and funds available to buy that land. One of the reasons we were told they wanted to sell it was that they no longer needed it and it wasn't in the rate base. To me, the logical question is, well, why don't you petition to put it in your rate base? It seems reasonable to me that you should have as unpopulated a buffer as you could have around that plant. So that's my question. That's my request to the council tonight. They're not listening to us. We have communicated with Duke. They have sent representatives out to talk with us. We've gotten a bunch of non-answers. I'm concerned that if what we have heard is true, they're going to move into the development. It'll be out of their hands before we can impact it. And our request is that perhaps the council would make a phone call and see if Duke would consider delaying the sale of this property. Duke has a $90 billion balance sheet, and somewhere buried on that balance sheet are these 348 acres. The cost of waiting and determining a better outcome for that peninsula, I think is well worth the time. I thank you for your time.
Thank you, sir. And Bill, could you have staff, somebody contact Duke to see if they can get some answers to the ones they have not been given yet? And maybe we can get a heads up from Audra if there's any kind of zoning issues, and Ms. Love can be told so she can contact the. Perfect. Perfect.
Thank you, Bill.
Thank you, sir.
Bill.
Appreciate it.
Mr.
Appreciate y'all waiting
Thank you.
patiently. Thank you very much. Do we have a motion on executive session?
Yes, sir. I move we go into executive session to receive legal advice regarding condemnation of project number 1149-007, track number 7. Also, off-site disposal and cleanup demand and association of legal counsel. The tolling agreement for the extension of the tolling agreement for the Bethel Fire District, and get an update on the CWS franchise contract.
Second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
We'll be back at 8:15. I believe we have 3 action items.
Yes, sir. I move we condemn property regarding project number 1149-007, that track number 7.
Second.
Discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. Yes, sir. Next.
Now I know what y'all are smiling about.
Next item.
I move that we associate legal counsel Alex Shisseth to.
Excuse me, sir?
Alex Shisseth.
Oh, okay.
To respond to an off-site disposal cleanup demand.
Second.
Discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. Yes, sir. Next item.
I move that we approve the tolling agreement regarding the Bethel Fire Tax District.
Second.
Discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. If there's no further items to discuss, we have a motion to adjourn.
Motion to adjourn.
Second.
Discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
We are adjourned.